BIC episode number 134. On this episode, amongst other things, we're going to talk about Fanatics Fest. We'll talk about some general card related discussions. And Eric is going to explain to us in intricate detail that Bobby Burrell doesn't exist. That's actually what we're going to be talking about. That and more on this episode of the BIC podcast. Yes, under the watchful eyes of Brett Favre, who does exist, and he can hurt you. And he's not a swell fellow. It is true. But what happens? It is what it is. Well, a couple of things we're going to go into the docket. Like I said, we'll talk about Fanatics Fest briefly. None of us attended. However, if you do want to check it out, I'll put a link in the description to last week's live stream on the Friday, where Neo Cards and Comics actually came in, who did attend Fanatics Fest, and he actually gave us a little bit of a rundown from the ground. I have added chapters to the live stream, but I will actually put in the link that we'll include to it, I will actually put a timestamp to the beginning when Neo joins us, and specifically he's talking about Fanatics Fest. So that'll let you skip ahead to that piece. And then if you're interested, you can hang out for the duration or check out the rest of it on your own time. But you can focus on that one specific piece because I'll have a timestamp straight to it. It was a standard kind of episode. We went through talking many things. Eric, once again, fills us with his throne of lies. Anything to say for yourself, Eric?
No, I like to lie, and I sit on a throne, and sometimes I sit on the throne and lie. So no, nothing really to discuss.
I see. Well, that said, Brandon, I think we're going to get into, I'm going to do the silly card of the week first. We'll start off with that. I did actually pick up a couple of items. I will let you guys, if there is anything you would like to share, by all means. If not, don't worry. But I've got a couple of things. And I'm also going to make mention here, before I continue any further, is that we are going to be participating in Hobby Palooza. We'll talk more about it in the next couple of weeks. I did submit some information over to them so they at least can start building the thumbnails. They'll do a little preview show and everything. If you guys remember last year, we did participate in it. They do it for Signature for Soldiers, so there is a charitable element to it. So despite Eric's horribleness, there is a good cause to it if you're willing to tolerate it. However, I will say, we received an indirect challenge. It wasn't even an intentional challenge, but it became a result of what happened. I was watching a live stream on the Four Collectors YouTube channel on Sunday, and they were doing basically a themed night, and they wanted to rank the different favorite sets of these different decades, going all the way through to the 1900s. And what happened is, when you get a bunch of people who contribute, who have cards they want to showcase, they want to talk about why they like the set and all this stuff, it becomes a longer explanation. It's kind of what we talked about in the past about how you want to structure your show. Well, it was going to take a while. So the end result is it ended up taking about 2 hours and 45 minutes. But after a little while, maybe about past the 2 hour mark, because that's not the normal live stream they like to do, it became a bit of a running joke. They were talking about how long the live stream was taking. And then we were actually name dropped. This channel was name dropped. And then I was having a little bit of fun. It's like, so this is the warm up. You guys are going to do the real live stream now, right? Because they basically were just a little past 2 hours by that point. And then they finished just shy of 2 hours and 45 minutes. And I said, well, I'm making mental notes here. Since you boys are talking about long live streams, like, all I'm saying is Hobby Palooza, we're going to be closing it down on the Friday. I get to turn it off whenever I like. Challenge accepted. I already told them I'm going 15 minutes past however that long this live stream goes. And Eric, that means 2 hours and 59 minutes, 3 hours flat. Sounds like a warm-up for us on a Friday.
Especially if you compare it to the old days, yeah. But
well, even compared to the standard, Eric, that's actually 75% of a normal Friday live stream. That's actually, Eric, I could go 3 hours and we could literally call it there, and I would have made my points, and still we would have gone shorter than normal.
Yeah, we do tend to have longer live streams than most shows. Some of the information in those 4+ hours are it's good information. The other 3 hours and 48 minutes is usually pretty much nonsense.
Well, we're gonna have a lot of nonsense. All the nonsense is coming. You've been warned. You've all been warned. But we'll talk about that when we get closer to it. However, now it is time for us to discuss the matter that is the silly card of the week. Brought to us by AMG Collectibles, amgcollectibles.ca, the AMG Collectibles YouTube channel. We thank them for participating and sponsoring this show and the channel. There will be a podcast episode that will drop. This will be dropping on the Tuesday. On the Wednesday, we will be dropping that episode. No big release this week, so we'll probably be showing some cards that came in the store and talking about a few other unrelated things. I also want to talk a little bit about summertime, the hobby, as we're starting to today. The last couple of days have definitely felt like summer. We're definitely feeling like more summery weather. The heat pump being active. I mean, water is being pumped out of the hose of the heat pump as we speak. So definitely the last couple of days have felt like summer. But also I've noticed a couple little trends related to it. But on the podcast episode for AMG, we'll be talking about some stuff that came in the store. Usually there's a little bit of a summertime lull, so we'll talk to them a little bit about how things are going to be structured inside of the store. Also, what their experiences are as they participate in that. And the card shows will actually be going through the summer, which is not usually what they end up doing. But for folks that do stick around, that aren't going out to cottage country or whatever, it might be an opportunity for them to check out some stuff in the store and participate in some of those card shows. Because the last couple have actually been attended pretty well. So we'll definitely see what that looks like over the summer and how people participate. So regardless, we thank them. Links in the description to everything related to it. So we thank them for participating in the podcast and the channel. Now, silly card of the week time. And unfortunately, last week, we didn't have the ability to properly share the cards. So unfortunately, I think that may have been impactful. But nonetheless, 48 of you did vote on it, which is good, solid turnout. Appreciate that. We also got a comment and some likes on that, so that was great. All votes count. It is the true democracy in this world. But out of those 48, 54% of them went to 5 hit, which out of context was a little disappointing because I'm like, what are we even doing?
I told you that sticker on that
I don't think people were paying attention to the sticker, Brandon. I think they were not paying attention to the sticker.
The holders, I mean, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
they held up to the assignment.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Eric's March of the Penguins takes up the rear at 17%. And in the middle was Wally Moon and the Brow. It was the 1956 Wally Moon with the infamous unibrow. Famous for that unibrow. It is quite the card. And Dan was specifically the one who cited it. And I want to make sure I read this comment because I think it's valid. Dan says, I will not accept any anti-1956 results. And Dan is with me on this. We're very pro 1956 Topps. So I don't even know if I should count those other votes. But nonetheless, I have a commitment to honor the democracy that is the vote of the silly card of the week. So I will. But Eric, I do so under protest.
Oh, well, okay. Protest noted.
Yes. But nonetheless, we had to count all the votes, and that was the results. So congrats for 5 hit. Moving on.
Yeah.
So we do have some fresh candidates this week, so we will get into those now. And now that I've fixed the setup here, I will actually be able to show you the cards. So we're going to do that now. So this is going to be this week's candidates, and there will be a community post where you'll be able to see all of these. So the first one here is yours. We got a little Canadian flavor here with a little Vladdy Jr. going on here, Brandon. What's going on?
Yes. I was actually, Yannick would be proud of this. I was actually browsing for Vladdy Guerrero Sr., just seeing what was out there and available. And I stumbled across his son here, and I'd never seen this card before, but you can only imagine my thoughts of Eric and his size discrepancy issues. And I was like, he would appreciate this card. I believe it says Titans. I think that's the insert name here.
I think so.
But I'm going to really need Eric to figure out, is Vladdy just really super huge? Are the players on the field just really tiny? Or is this all proportionate?
I think this is a Gulliver's Travels type of situation. And, I definitely think he's cheating. He's playing against the Lilliputians.
Yeah, and I questioned how the third baseman is supposed to field the ball. Like, Vladdy's basically already standing at second base. His shadow is already at it's to the fence,
Oh, yeah. So. Yeah. That'd be like one of us, hitting a golf ball with a baseball bat. It's going to go far.
But I will say
I definitely think he's cheating.
Outside of I know Eric would appreciate this. It also brought me, just to reverse it a little bit. Do you guys ever watch the Savannah Bananas? Do you watch Banana Ball?
Yes,
I am familiar with it, but I haven't watched their stuff.
I've seen
I
highlights.
actually have watched more Banana Ball games this year, I think, than I have Major League Baseball because it is very fun and entertaining. And they've got
Yeah,
more.
it's a good entertainment product. Yeah.
Well, they've expanded the league, so there's some new teams in there,
Mhm.
and they've been playing at football fields, and it's fun. So this kind of reminded me of Stilts because that dude, he looks to be tall as hell anyway, and then he's on the stilts, and he's out there pitching or batting and running the bases, and I'm just like, I'd be lucky to stand on the damn things, let alone pitch off of a pitcher's mound and actually throw a strike. So this kind of gave me the stilts vibe as well. So little shout out to Banana Ball. I really enjoy it. They stream it Friday and Saturday nights on YouTube, so you can catch the games there. I think they have an ESPN deal now too. So
I believe
Bill
so. I think that's
Lee,
right.
Bill Lee shows up to all his signings now wearing his Bananas uniform.
yeah,
There you go.
it's a great product, and it's kind of a cool story too. Not to get off subject, but apparently the couple that started the league actually went in debt and basically were all out. Like basically, it was either going to work or they were going to be poor, and they've turned it into something big. So props to them, and it's fun. It's fun to watch. So
I believe it. So one other note I'll make here, related, what's funny about this, and what I appreciate about it, Eric, is that the picture they use of the dome.
See here, there's Bill Lee. He shows up. He shows up in all his stuff in his Bananas uniform.
Oh, it's nice of him to stand beside his Eric, cardboard standee. It's lovely. Well, there's only got one expression, so I assume it's a cardboard standee. The real Eric
Yeah.
isn't there.
That's true.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to note about this card, I appreciate that they actually took a more recent picture of the dome because this is post renovation because they had completely renovated the bottom section. It was redone. Now, I will say it's really nice having visited earlier this season, but they definitely followed in hockey's footsteps. Is that you can see like we start off here. So you got Rogers here, who obviously owns the team, but also owns the TV network that they're on, and it's also called Rogers Center, is what they call it. So you've got that Sobeys, which is a supermarket chain. Then you go over here. I can't remember what this one was called, but I think it was like a law firm. Tim Hortons, because of course you do. TD, Toronto Dominion Bank. TD down here, and then on the other side you got Nike. M&P, which I think is a consulting firm, Home Hardware, and then you got another Rogers one up here. And it's like, it literally looks like the boards of a hockey arena with all the advertising all the way from left to right with no gaps left. Nothing. And if you look right beside, like here, it's cut off, you got National Car Rental. Like no stone is left unturned. They didn't miss a trick, Eric. And then in the second deck, they've got it as well.
They put and they got the Topps Chrome emblem over the stands. I mean, it's like crazy.
One more reason, and just something to point out here. When I started talking about this is proof of how much stuff is produced today, because I had never seen this insert. Doing bulk submissions, you would think a lot of stuff would flow through. I would see a lot of different things. I used to, like I've talked about it doing the previews and reveals and stuff. I used to know all the different colors and the parallels and the answer. There is not a chance in hell I know all of them today. And there's always something new popping up that I haven't seen. And this is another example of that. I think this was from last year's set, and I'd never seen it. Never seen it shared anywhere, nothing. So there you go. New insert.
There you go. I'll actually share with you one that I inadvertently saw because of Ham, Eric's favorite person. But we'll touch on that in a minute. But that'll be separate. So this is the first one that we included. Let's move on here to the second. Second one, Eric, this one's yours. What do you want to say about this one? Also noted that it's for the Chicago Blackhawks, the team known for their greatest superstar of all time, Bobby Orr. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah. So this is 79-80 O-Pee-Chee card, the same year as Gretzky's rookie. And clearly it's the 70s. Look at the backdrop of this thing. It's all blue and sparkly, and I mean it is screaming 70s. It's like he at a dance club or something. And he's got the 70s stash. We'll just call it a 70s stash. You know, other people may call it something else, but we'll just go with 70s stash. The only thing that's really missing is the unibrow. He seems to have done a good job of taking care of that. But what the hell is he standing in front of?
Look, Eric, I got a legitimate theory. Can I offer a theory of this? Brandon, I'll get a word from you in a second. I got to be honest. I actually think, because I've been in I never played hockey when I was a kid. It wasn't my game. However, I've been in my share of hockey arenas. I actually think it's just like the bricks of like concrete, or basically the bricks behind it. Because in my school, we had bricks like this, and this picture is overexposed. They basically fired a flash at him. So the bricks were textured. So if you had taken a photo of somebody directly in front of those bricks, it would look basically like this.
Do you know what I think it is?
What do you think it is?
Especially being the 70s. I think it's wood paneling that they just painted with a glossy blue. And
Well,
the
what I was
exposure,
saying was, I think it's just the combination of the gloss and the material. It's basically a textured material with
yeah,
paint.
I think
But
it's
I just
wood
think the
paneling.
the flash
old
was
school.
because look at his face. He's being flashed with a bright light, like right in front of him, and it's lighting up the background behind him. I actually think it's just a texture.
Yeah, but
It
they
looks
use
like
that
a
paneling
sparkly
everywhere.
curtain.
Yeah.
It just looks like a blue sparkly curtain right out of the 70s somewhere, out of a nightclub, I don't know. It's crazy. So
Yeah. I'd be
I
interested to
also
see though.
noticed that he's wearing a Houston Aeros jersey from the WHA, and
Yes.
he is with the Blackhawks. So that's just
Yeah.
something I just happened to notice when I was looking at the card earlier. But no, that backdrop is just way too blue and sparkly. Like
I would
just
wager
think
I would
disco.
wager under the right circumstances, if I went back to like my old elementary school, I could probably recreate the background of that if I put somebody in front of it, just because it was a textured material with a glossy kind of paint. If you fire a flash at it, it would probably look not dissimilar to this.
No,
But
I'm going with disco. He's got the 70s stash, the hair, and he's going out to the disco.
there you go. All right, so that'll be our second one here. And the third one, I want to talk about this. This was something I came across. This is actually 2025 tops. And it's actually the base card for I forget the last name here, but it's Pete Fairbanks. Actually, Pete Fairbanks is the player for the Tampa Bay Rays, and all I can say is I think he's hanging out with Eric and he's going, "Let's get chocolate sticks."
He's very intense.
That man is pumped. He is
Yeah.
ready.
Yeah, that vein in his neck's gonna burst.
Eric, I think this man is going to do a chocolate stick run with you. Let's go. He's ready.
He's the guy I want on my team when we go to Dunkin' Donuts. Absolutely.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm hoping he's a closer.
Brandon, wouldn't it be great though if he's like, no, actually he's a middle reliever and he only came in for like one batter, and he goes like, ah.
No, he's a starter. That's the first pitch of the game was called a strike, and he was just
He's
really
like, he's just that pumped up,
Yeah.
Brandon. He's just that jacked. Just saying. I felt the intensity. Did you feel it, Eric? Do you feel it?
I'm feeling it. I'm like that vein is gonna pop. He's gonna die young.
Possibly. So there it is. That came from 2025 tops. I came across that one. I was like, perfect.
I have to give Topps a little bit of credit real quick, because I actually seen this one last night, and I was shocked that they used it, but it's kind of a little throwback to Griffey. Let's see if I can get it to pull up to where y'all can see it. But Victor Robles is now on the Mariners, and they actually
So doing the bubblegum thing?
yeah, he's blowing the bubble while he's swinging the bat. So I was
Yep.
like, huh, that's kind of interesting. They're actually giving us some pretty decent photography.
Yeah, there are moments like that's the whole thing. My opinion is there are moments. There can be moments where I think that. So those 3 ones will all be included in community posts. As I said, pick your favorite. We'll count all the votes and we'll get to the result. Now, real quick, I want to share this one. This is something indirectly that I did pick up, but it was a direct result of Ham, Florida man, doing one of his usual trips out to a card show. And I'll occasionally I'll check him out because obviously, out there, apparently they have a card show every 47 seconds in Florida. I think that's the law or something. But regardless, he goes to a lot of these shows. But he'll kind of go through the tables and look at different cards and showcase something. But occasionally he'll like shout out something referencing people. Sometimes you'll see some wrestling. Well, he came across a card of the Not So Fella, and one of the dealer tables had a Brett Favre, 1/1 that actually was from an insert called Portals. Now, I had never seen this insert before, where it's kind of to Brandon's point from earlier. There's just so many. There's no way anybody could possibly see everything. But what I thought it was interesting. But I saw the 1/1 on there. They had a price for $800, so obviously I have no interest in that. And it is like from 2024. But it did lead me to go down to the Google machine, fire it up, and take a closer look to see, like, okay, so what is this? Like, what's I was able to look at the label and see what set it's from and everything. Let me see. Of course, this is a parallel, so no doubt there's a base version and probably some other parallels. So that was like, okay, let me go down this route. So I was able to acquire one from ComC, and I'll actually show you what's going on with this one. So this was what I thought. So this is the portal thing. So you've got him in jets, but if you look in the center section, the portal is actually him. It's literally the same throwing pose, but it's him on the jets on the outside and him as part of the Green Bay Packers inside the portal. So they actually did like a mix between him in both teams. It was just a little weird. It was a little different than what I'm used to. So I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. Interesting.
Where's the Falcons and the
I think you need more portals inside the portal, Brandon.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. Either way, though, from what it looks like they were able to grab him doing the same throw, because his throwing mechanics are pretty consistent by this later stage in his career. So you were basically able to combine images from him in Green Bay doing a throw and him doing as a jet doing a throw and kind of mix it into this whole portal thing. I just thought it was a bit of an unusual one. I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting. It's a little weird. But I was like, all right. So I picked up, this is the green parallel, this one. And I picked it up for the princely sum of $1.75. A little bit more reasonable, a little more economical, let's say. And sub $2, we'll take one.
And shipping was $52.50.
No, remember, it's ComC. So now I can send it to the US address and it'll be 14 cents and it'll ship before I've even thought to ship it. It's already there right now with my mind.
That box full of Yannick's stuff all just came from ComC.
It is true. It is true. So I just thought that was funny. I got a kick out of it. So let me ask a question. I got one more card I'm going to show before I show some pickups, because that one technically was a pickup, but that was a ComC pickup because of the ham thing. That was inadvertently, he inspired me to go do a little digging. Eric's favorite person. So I went in and looked at it. But for sub $2, Brandon, I'm happy. For sub $2, it's like, okay, it's kind of a neat card. I'll throw it in the Z Folio. It's fine. That's fine. Does anyone have any pickup that they would like to share?
I haven't gotten anything.
Not more copies of Reggie.
No, I got those, and then, which I've shown, the DJ, and that's all I've had in quite a while, because there was a lot of money out the door for the DJ. So a lot of money, more than it's probably like top 3 most expensive cards I've ever purchased. So just slowing down a little bit, catching up.
I was on vacation, so I did not have, the only card I got in the mail was a Home Depot card. I did not get sports cards. I did make an eBay, well, actually quite like 4, because it was buy 3 get 1 free eBay purchase of some books, if that interests anyone. Because I found
it depends what kind of books. Are we talking about the occult? Are we talking about the occult? Because Eric is a witch.
I like books.
It's actually so I enjoy Walking Dead. I watched all of the spinoffs.
So does Eric. He's a witch.
And it's a Walking Dead book series that basically details how the governor came about. And so I read the first book, and that was the only one I had. So I had to go hunt eBay to try to get more of them. I think there's like 8 total in the series. So there was a seller that had buy 3 get 1 free. So I utilized that to order some more for the series so I can continue reading it. So, But yeah, I was on vacation, so
Hashtag reading, Eric. That's a first hashtag reading. We appreciate
Wow.
it.
yeah.
Nice, very nice.
Well, as soon as I learn to, I'm gonna
It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be wild times. Let me tell you.
read all over the place.
It's gonna be graphic novels, and then after that, who knows? Who knows? So this next one is actually the one that got away. I was trying to bid big money for it, but I can only go so far. But it's a Venn diagram of things we talked about on this very podcast, and it saddens me that I was unable to procure this item, but I will share it nonetheless. So from the Fanatics Collect auction this past weekend, alas, I fell shy of this item. It is a 2018 Leaf 70th anniversary black Josh Rosen out of 15 in a BGS black label.
Oh,
Oh my God.
how
Guys.
did you have not pulled the trigger on that?
Well, your like button
How
money
did it
didn't all
go
come
for
through.
$32?
Brandon, so let me kind of make let's Brandon, we're 5% more mature here. Eric, now is the time that we have a legitimate discussion. When I saw this, I followed it because I'm like, oh, that'd be hilarious. I totally wanted to buy this. Like I really did. The problem was, despite all the jokes, you notice how many bids were on it? Look on the side. Do you see how many bids? See that number?
10.
Yeah, that's a lot of bids, Eric. That's 9 more than I was hoping for.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
the problem, this is the problem.
Yeah. You don't want to waste money on this silliness.
Yeah, like for the joke, I was willing to pay a nominal fee. Like certain, like for the jokes, for the lulls, I would certainly add this to my collection. Black Label especially, I would have been even better. But the problem was that they actually kept bidding. And I was like, okay, look, guys, I want this way under $20.
Yeah.
The melt value of the plastic is not worth anything to me. The Black Label thing would have been funny. It would have also been the first Black Label I ever had in my collection. I would have kept it as is. It would have been fine. I really don't care. But the point was, and the card itself doesn't really hold any crazy value for me. So, but for the novelty, was the novelty worth something to me? Yes, the novelty was worth something to me. Was it worth $32.40 or above? No, it wasn't. This is the one that got away. Much sadness.
In all seriousness,
Okay.
In all seriousness.
in an all seriousness conversation, I understand the fun of you buying Josh Rosen. Okay, I get that you have fun doing it. There's humor to it. It's
I do.
okay. But is there 10 people, 9 other people out there doing the same thing? Because realistically, this is a very, very, very low level card. Like
It
it's
is.
not even just a Leaf rookie of Rosen. It's an insert Leaf rookie of Rosen.
Well, it's also a collegiate card. If you pay attention to the uniform, he's not even in Arizona uniform.
Well, it would still be. I'm pretty sure. I don't remember if they had the rights to use the collegiate uniforms or not. But either way,
Just look at the picture, Brandon. It's a brushed out. So either way, like Leaf was not
I
above.
think it's
They're not using
unlicensed
logos.
collegiate
Yeah.
uniform. It's out of 15.
Correct.
And yes, it's a Black Label, but that becomes irrelevant if the piece inside that got graded Black Label is irrelevant. Like the label doesn't mean much from there. How in the absolute hell did this actually go for $32? Is like, where are we coming from on this?
I don't know. Eric was willing to go to $32. I don't know what to say.
This has to be something that's getting put into a repack,
Probably.
one of those little boxes at Walmart, something like that. Because I don't know that shit never ceases to amaze me.
That's the reason why I wanted to share it. But you see how Eric?
Does anyone want to point out that this is a Leaf card
Yes.
in a Beckett holder
Yes.
with a Black Label?
Yes.
Anybody want to guess what day of the week this was graded on?
Eric, why do you think I was in? Eric, this could have been a beautiful moment had I procured this item The jokes. The jokes.
Listen, you should have made me aware of it. I would have went halvesies with you.
Mhm.
That still would have been too much. 16 still would have been too much.
On this show, on the Friday show, we need a Saturday morning black label.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
all right,
I'm gonna be devil's advocate here.
Ooh, Zidiablo.
I know the accusations and the assumptions and the running joke about
and things that Eric has done
and
admitted to under oath.
Labels, but I do have to give credit where credit is due. Okay, they may not be even near the top of the scale on the manufacturer's list, but Leaf, I would actually give them credit of putting out the best quality cards in the market amongst the known manufacturers. They put out, it may not be licensed, none of that, but their quality is usually very good. So for something like that to get a black, I wouldn't be surprised because they do put out good quality comparatively to the others.
Scandalous.
Brandon's been drinking.
Maybe got into some of the expired Guinness, Eric.
You are a Leaf aficionado with your Reggies, and I buy some Leaf stuff because, especially in the pop culture section, you can get some autographs and stuff very cheap, and they do so many different designs, colors, and all this other stuff. Usually they're low numbered if that means a shit to anybody, and they're still relatively cheap. So as I've gotten them in and you get them in and look them over, I'm just, like I said, I have to be devil's advocate. We can shit on them all we want, but to give them some sort of credibility, they do have good quality.
All that said, I wish that it had gone much cheaper because I would have bought it for the lulls. The jokes would have been legendary.
Did you contact Fanatics and ask that since the fest was going on, if they had a malfunction in the system and that maybe the decimal got moved?
I bet I could have won it if I had gone halvesies with Tom Brady.
Maybe.
It could have been all part of the fest. He goes, Josh Rosen, it's like black label, I'm in.
I know he has an extra $5,000 in his pocket because it came from me. And I want it back.
It's the least he can do. That's right. Just saying. That's the one that got away. That's the big fish that got away. But I'll finish up here with a couple of quick ones. So I got 3 cards that I'm going to go through real quick that I did pick up. And I'll kind of segue off of it into kind of what I've been observing right now as we get into kind of the summertime. I'm still finding stuff. The point of this piece, this segment, is that I'm still finding stuff out there. But like, if you notice, like I've done pickup videos that have gone like 15, 20 minutes where I'll go through the different cards and everything. There was a heyday where there was a lot of stuff being picked up. It's not that there isn't anything out there. It's that I'm being a little bit pickier for a couple of reasons. One is that I don't just need everything for the sake of needing everything. But the other thing is like, there's just a lot of stuff that's kind of same. I'll do my safe searches. I am finding some things that are of interest to me or things that I've been waiting on for the price to drop or whatever it is. But I'm finding the stuff that is interesting out there is either wrong price or a lot of the interesting stuff has dried up. Some of it has just been bad timing, bad luck. But realistically, it's just, I've noticed that I'll do my safe searches and a lot of times I'll come away from the safe searches going, no, nothing that interesting. Like the most interesting thing that I came across, which is another one that got away, was that 93 All-Star jersey for Medano. Like I totally would have probably purchased that because to me, that early 90s All-Star uniform it stands out. It's very striking in the way it is. And I wouldn't mind owning it because at that point, then maybe I would get it signed at some point just because it's more interesting to me because it's, those, they don't make those anymore. Or if Fanatics has gone to doing some replicas with Mitchell and Ness, but if you check out the Mitchell and Ness replicas they're garbage. Like the patches on the front of them are like basically just this printed out thing that they basically like glued on there. Like they're junk. If you have anything that's stitched, the quality jump is massive. The CCM, if you find the old CCMs, way better, even for replicas, way better. So if you can get your hands on those are interesting. To someone who remembers the jerseys from back then, they were expensive. Like even the replicas were expensive back in the day, but they were still stitched. even if they weren't all the way up to NHL spec, they were still much nicer than the version you're getting
back
now.
in the day, they were about $200 American for the replicas.
Yeah. But now compare it to what you're getting today, where you're basically paying the same, and it's very much junk, like 100% junk. Even if the price point is the same, what you're getting for it is much, much worse. That $200 from back then is a much better deal.
I was on board, and I don't want to crucify them too deep on your channel, but I was one of the first early on vocalists to say my distaste for Fanatics and them coming into the hobby and everything. And a lot of people thought that they were going to be the savior, because we had the Panini stuff and everything else. But to be honest, part of my reason for that, aside from some issues I was having with Topps stuff,
is the apparel?
Was because of the merchandise.
Yeah, the apparel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the quality sucks. The price just kept going up and up and up. They have their hands in so many different things. Like, it may not have the Fanatics name on it. It was just so many elements of, like, even outside of cards that I just did not like the way things were going. It kind of preluded to what I expected was going to happen within the card space.
Sure. I think it's fair. And it's kind of playing out that way, but obviously it is what it is. As a collector, I don't let these things bother me. For me, it's just I'll look for those opportunities where I can. Yeah, if I come across a jersey like that again,
yeah,
I'll definitely make a play for it, because honestly, I thought it was very interesting. And when I came upon it, I was like, ooh, that's interesting. Obviously, clearly, somebody else thought the same thing. They pulled the trigger. They were quick with the quickness on that one. But anyway, all right. I'll share these ones real quick. And the middle one, I want to take a second and explain something about this, because it is interesting. Also, it plays into a couple of things we talked about before, but I'll real quickly touch on. So first one here is actually kind of a fun one. Again, very inexpensive. Me just finding some stuff. So here is a Jamie Benn from Synergy. This is going to be one of those little shiny cards. The insert's called Drop the Hammer. I just like the fact they're playing into Jamie Benn's goonery a little bit. Literally, we've got an insert here, Drop the Hammer. It's like, what's it? Eric, he's driving his elbow into the New Jersey player's back right there. He 100% is. I appreciate also we got a little hammer in the back, in the top there.
Yeah, I see the hammer. Yeah.
This could have been a candidate for Silly Card of the Week. Now,
it would. I legitimately thought about it.
I enjoy your style you're going with these, because it's got the shine and a good picture. This is the kind of stuff I like snagging off of ComC myself.
Yeah. And this was literally a couple bucks. So, like, again, right in that sweet, Eric, the point that I want to make with this card is that we can still find cheap cards that are kind of fun. Mm-hmm. And that's okay.
Good binder
that can be
card.
an enjoy. Yeah, exactly. Like, that's like the perfect Z folio fodder. This is not something you're gonna like put into a one touch or get graded or what. No, it's just like you throw it into a Z folio, flip through some shiny cards, have a little bit of fun with it. It's a silly theme. It's a fun picture. Like, it all comes together, and literally a couple of dollars. Perfect.
And the background looks just like my Silly Card of the Week background.
Sure, but I think I want to see when it's in hand. Based on the pattern that I see here, I think it's gonna play with the light very well. When I get it in hand, I'll play around with it. I think it's gonna look real nice, especially again for a couple bucks. This next one though, I want to take a second and explain something. This one's interesting. So this is actually from an insert called Piece of History. Now, a couple of things I want to mention. If you notice, this has like a crease right here and a crease right here. This, unfortunately, was a major problem they had with the quality control on these, because of the way that you tried to put the little memorabilia pieces. So you had these stick pieces. But despite that, and the thing is, when I looked at the picture, I saw that immediately. However, there is a reason that I still went after this. A couple of reasons, actually. First one, that when this came up on my save searches, I think it was there for $40. Now, you'd say to yourself, oh, but why would you pay that much for a thing that has like an obvious crease? And the seller themselves, being so experienced, had this as near mint or better. And I'm like, not on your best day, my dude. Not on your best day.
Okay.
But the funny thing, Eric, is that I still hit the buy now. Do you know why?
You didn't have it in your collection.
That is part of the reason, but there is a more specific reason. So I'll explain. This, I believe, if memory serves me, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Black Diamond is one that is tricky with different level tiers and stuff.
Yes.
So I would expect it's something to do with this particular one is on an upper tier or something that's way lower printed.
Yeah. So I'll explain. So this one, if memory serves me completely, I believe it was 99 2000, this particular Black Diamond series. So this was a piece of history. It was the stick piece insert set that came of it. It was set as 3 levels. You got level 1, level 2, and level 3. And depending on the level, each one of those little diamonds would be filled with a stick piece. I've had the level 1, the single, for years. Now, even the single, if I was looking it up a little earlier yesterday, I believe it was like 1 in 180 packs to pull the single. So not an easy pull to begin with. The level 2 is 1 in over 800 packs to pull any of them. And I can count on one hand the number of them that I've seen since 99. They just do not come up. The level 3 is a 1 of 1. That one I haven't seen at all. So the point is, level 1 I've had for a long time. Level 2, just haven't had the opportunity. So it's a situation where, like, yeah, I understand it's got a crease down the middle, but here's the thing. I wanted it for the collection. 1 in 800 packs shouldn't be that difficult, but they just dried up years ago. I just can't come across one. The only ones that I've been able to see were already sitting in a Medano collector's longtime collection. And the only way that I'd be able to get it is basically if an accident was to befall them, that I would probably pin on Eric.
So I have one gripe.
Only one?
This is on Upper Deck.
Mm.
Why couldn't they put the wood pieces with the grain going the same way?
That's fair. That's valid. With the cut, you could, yeah.
At it, and the crease isn't bothering me, but the damn wood grain going opposite directions, that's bothering me.
There you go. No. So anyway, so this one needed a little bit of explanation because for the level 2, it's 1 in 800 packs, and they had them in retail as well, but in retail it was 1 in over 1,000 packs. It was just very difficult to get any of the level 2s, and I believe it's a 20 card checklist. So in order to get a specific one, it's 1 in 16,000 packs. Just not very easy. And they just don't come up very often anymore. So when you see one at a price point you can live with, then you go ahead and pick it up, which is what I did here. Last one is also from eBay. Dennis PC.
Oh,
and this is one of their buybacks. What's that?
Oh, that's a silly card of the week right there.
I think didn't we already use that? Didn't I use that one already before that?
And everything. Oh God, she's gonna lose her tongue.
Well, the irony is that this was actually from a specific wrestling event they did back then. The girl that's receiving that submission hold right there actually has gone on to become their television champion since then. But at this time, she was just a cheerleader, and she was basically a jobber whose job was to lose in about 2 minutes. So indirectly, it's actually her pre-rookie card because she's in a cameo appearance in this before she got her first individual AEW card.
There you go.
Yeah, so this was a buyback they did. So it's numbered to 10 in the corner if you see that.
Thing like part of her bit, or is that just?
It was because, so if you're paying attention, the way this picture is taken, she was literally looking at the camera, mugging it up for the camera, because again, she was so arrogant that she's doing this, mugging it for the camera while applying the submission hold. They happen to capture this exact moment, and this picture is on the thumbnail on AEW from this event.
Well,
so you can actually photo match it to the specific event.
Props to her, because she does use a large space of the card to do her autograph, but yet she was nice enough to take it and put it to the side, unlike some athletes that would just do it all over the picture. So she took care and thought in how she signed these cards. So
hashtag consider it.
Props.
So that one is one that I've added. That one I picked up on ComC. Another one for that PC. Last one, though, is one that I had talked about when we were discussing the cup. If you guys remember. So this last one is not an acquisition of mine. It's just one I wanted to show you because we had talked about the cup. And I say how I always look at the checklist for the cup to see what's out there. And I'm going to share with you a card that is 1 of 5 copies. Here we've got a dual ticket booklet with a piece of ticket in the middle from the Western Forum in 1994. You can make that out on there. Dual autograph of Wayne Gretzky and Medano. Now, obviously, Gretzky, number to 5, dual autograph. This is going to go for a pretty penny. And as you can see from the graphic here, I took this as a screenshot of someone that pulled it. Eric's favorite person in the world, Josh, actually shared this with me so that somebody had actually pulled this card. This is the toughest card that is in the checklist for the cup that Medano's involved in. And it is one that I know I'm not going to get my hands on because it is got Gretzky on it and it's numbered to 5. So that's a no-go. But it's nice to see that it's been pulled, at least one of the copies out in the wild. It's there.
Wow.
Now, a couple of things I want to say. I appreciate the concept on it, and no doubt this card will go for a pretty penny. Couple of issues I have. Number one, as you can see, that Medano autograph is very smudged to the point that it's almost faded completely in the M. For a brand new product, I'm not a big fan of that. The Gretzky auto looks like crap. And I got to be 100% honest with you. We're going to keep it 100% here. Keep it 100, as the kids say. Eric, this card looks like crap. This is actually terrible. Like this design does nothing for me. It's a very expensive card. To be clear, this will be a very expensive card. But I hate the fact the auto is smudged. I hate the fact the other auto looks like junk, just in general. That's Gretzky's fault, though. Like, I don't know if he had a hand cramp that day, but that is not a great Gretzky auto. I've seen better.
Yeah.
I don't mind the concept, but I just feel like we kind of mailed this one in. Like this is not a good looking card.
Yeah, I was gonna say the red.
The number is 29.
Yeah, like I'm just not a fan of how this turned out, Eric. Like I definitely, I don't mind the concept, but I just don't think this was executed well.
Right. And look at the Y. It's like his hand moved. It looks like it's shaky.
Yeah. And this is hand signed. So like it's not, you can't blame this on a sticker. This is straight on the card. This is how it came.
The Y looks like he's got the shakes.
Yeah. So unfortunate, like for very tough card. This is unfortunate. Yes, Brandon.
So just to pick it apart a little bit on what I'm looking at as well.
That's what we were doing.
Y'all touched on the autos, but the red behind the players, that just doesn't look right. What is with Medano's frame around his image being like almost all the way to the edge of the card, but Gretzky's isn't? That's a bit odd. And then why couldn't they have done something to actually like have more of the full ticket? Like I think that's pretty shoddy as well, the way that the ticket's in there. The concept, cool. Execution, not cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's a really cool idea, but
yeah, this is just unfortunate. I had to share this one, Eric, because once I saw it, I was like, we need to take a moment and talk about this. Again, this is a card that on paper, on the checklist, would be one that would be a great chase for me. But at the same time, I knew it was going to be super expensive. And by the way, it still will be. Like if this card goes up on eBay, it'll probably be sold for a pretty penny. But I'm not a player at this regardless, because I just don't like it. Like I'm just looking at this and I'm going like, And this is the cup, man. This is the highest end brand. So it's not like we don't have any excuses here. Hard signed. It's got the little memorabilia element there with the ticket. It's got Gretzky in it. With a Gretzky card, we want to take that extra effort. And again, Medano's my guy, and we've got him on here. But I can't co-sign this, Eric. No bueno.
What would be the reason that obviously Gretzky played for several teams? The Kings, isn't that like, wouldn't that be a lesser sought? I know the auto is the important part here, but when collectors are going for Gretzky, are the Kings like where?
With Gretzky, it's not. No, with Gretzky, like Edmonton obviously is always going to be very popular, but the Kings is second. Like the Kings would be number 2. More like obviously there are people who don't mind the Rangers. Like obviously he accomplished some feats in the Rangers, but his first foray into the U.S., his big like launching pad for the U.S. side of things was with the Kings. But really the biggest reason, if you pay attention to it, and I'll actually, again, I didn't ask Upper Deck about this, but I can apply a little logic based on what we're looking at here. The key is that the ticket is from the Western Forum, which was where the Kings played, and it is from 1994. So 2 things happen here. Number 1, the Gretzky image is applicable to that. And number 2, the Medano image, actually, if you look at his jersey, that's appropriate to around 94, 95. So the Medano picture is also time appropriate to what the Dallas jersey looked like around that time period. And then the Gretzky one also makes sense.
That's kind of what I was going at, though, is like, what is the connection of the ticket? Is it something significant, or is it?
I think it was just I think it was a ticket they were able to get their hands on. I think it was a ticket they were able to get their hands
I didn't
on
know
that
if maybe
both
this was
teams
a
played.
playoff matchup or like if
No.
there was something significant. I knew it wasn't Medano's like rookie year or anything.
No.
Or inaugural matchup between the two. So
Yeah.
I was trying to connect the dots there of, outside of why they would put him in Kings with the ticket stub, what was the purpose or significance of that ticket stub?
Yeah. I think what it came down to, my guess, based on what we see, because we're not seeing, to your point, we're not seeing the whole ticket, but my guess is it's probably a Kings Dallas game from 1994. And if you're going to do Kings in Dallas, well, Gretzky
You
makes
gotta
all
have
the
it,
sense
yeah.
in the world. And then Medano makes sense for the Dallas side of it. And that way, both ends of it are covered. And you've got, like, again, the concept, I don't even mind it, Eric. Conceptually, if
I
if
don't
that's if that's the link, I'm okay with it. Cool.
No.
But execution is where we kind of fell apart on this one.
Yeah.
Which is a shame. It's a shame because I have no doubt this will be a big chase for some. Like for a Gretzky collector, this would be a nice piece as well. Because obviously there's so many Gretzky things. It's kind of cool to have something that you can link to a specific game or a specific point in time. That's kind of neat. Hard sign Gretzky auto.
But,
Nothing wrong with that.
I agree with Bobbles because that middle panel, you have more room. You could have made the window bigger to see more of the ticket. There's plenty of room there. It's like they minimized it for no reason.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. Didn't want to basically necessarily make it into a critiquing thing, but I had to show it off because this is this card that I talked about. I saw it on the checklist and I knew it was something. I was curious how long it would take for somebody to pull it. And then once I was able to see, like I was finally able to see it and I was like, oh. Just a little bit disappointing. Luckily, it's not in my price bracket anyway. So, no, not the end of the world. It won't be one that I'll be chasing down. There's some other cards in that set that I'll probably be looking for. But yeah, a little disappointing given we're talking about the cup. You expect a little more out of it. But anyway, whatever. I think it'll be interesting to see. And hopefully, I would love to see what it would sell for, though. If they do end up listing it, I would love to know what it actually ends up selling for. I'd be curious to see what others would think with their money. Yes, Brandon. You look like you have a thought or you're looking at something.
I was trying to see if there was I know the date on there was 94. Was there anything that you could tell was like date, the actual month and day? I was trying to see like what happened with the game.
Oh, it'd be a little tricky to find. You can actually on Hockey Reference, you can do you can look up some of these games with these teams. I'll actually see. Tell you what, while we're doing this, I'll actually see.
February 23rd, 1994 game. This is telling me that the score was 0-0 in overtime.
So tie?
Yeah.
It's possible. Like, I don't know, maybe.
But there was also a December 23rd, so the 3 right there would be a throw off because there was a December 23rd, 90. No, that was 93, so that wouldn't work. Yeah, so I'm guessing that game was 0-0.
Amazing. Sensational. Eric, I am moved. Don't you feel moved? I feel moved.
I feel like I need to have a movement. Yeah.
Significant game.
Yeah. Well, there were, so I'm just looking here. Depends on whether it's 93, by the way, it depends on whether it's 93, 94 or 94, 95 for sure. So there was a game in January 18th, 94 that they played. And there was a game in February 23rd, to your point, 94. And there were 2. So there was also one in January. And the
That's
one
why
in
I was
January,
wondering if you could see like what the day, if it had the day on there.
Well, if I got a little more window, I would be able to.
Right.
Not for that specific one. The January 94 was a 5-3 victory. The Dallas Stars defeating the Los Angeles Kings in Reunion Arena. I think, actually, you know what? I think we got the answer to that question because this is in Reunion Arena. So the February one was probably in because the other one has to be.
Yeah, it was at LA. Yeah.
Yeah. So if it has to be that one, yes, 0-0 draw. It was a soccer game broke out. Let me tell you, Eric, that mind-bending game. Did you see that 0-0 game at the Forum back in 94?
I hope there was a lot of penalty minutes.
Iconic.
Medano did serve a penalty in it.
I hope there was.
Woo! Got on the score sheet. The score sheet. We'll take it, I guess. I don't know what to tell you. But there you go.
I was just curious, like, if there was anything significant happened in the game, and then I was like, well,
I look, Brandon, look, without being overly cynical about this, I genuinely just think that's a ticket they found. I think they found the ticket and like, we're going with it, guys. What'd you find? We found this game. Is there anything special? Don't worry about it. Just go with it, cut it, and put it in the card. Let's go. I think that's all that happened there.
Yeah,
My opinion.
And again, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think the whole
It's fine. Like, look, if it's a real ticket, whatever, that's fine.
I got no problem with it. I got no criticism of that. But yeah, the design, I would have made some recommendations to changing it up a little bit.
Yep, that's all fair. Like I said, concept fine, execution we're gonna need to take that one back to the drawing board. We can do better. I think we can do better. But anyway, so I wanted to share that one because honestly, it was fun that I came across it. So thanks to Josh for directing me to it because obviously I was interested in seeing what that one would end up looking like because you just see it on the checklist and you don't know for sure until you see it. Now, I wanted to kind of trail it into this specific, and we'll finish off with the Fanatics Fest because we don't have too much to add on that, but we'll touch on one or two things. But I want to ask you guys your opinion on this. One thing I've noticed, what I mentioned earlier, is I'm doing my safe searches. I'm looking at it. I am being picky, yes, but I am feeling a little bit of a slowdown from the perspective of I'm also watching channels where they're doing pickups, and it feels like people are out there, they're picking up stuff, but we're in a little bit of a summer lull sometimes, which happens. It happens from the content perspective sometimes, but it also happens from the pickups perspective as people are looking around trying to figure out. But it's also there's stuff going on. They're outside, like around here, they do the cottage stuff and all that. So that can affect shows because there can be a little less attendance because, hey, the weather's nice. You're going out to the lake. You're going to do some swimming. While you're doing that, you're not buying cards is what I'm getting at here. And sometimes that affects the sellers too, because, hey, maybe they're not listing as much stuff. Of course, if you're a dealer and you're full time or whatever, hey, you're still doing it. But right now, it just feels like it's a little quiet, kind of a holding pattern. And we're about a month out from the Nationals, so I have no doubt things will kind of ramp up a little bit as we get closer to that. But I just want to get your collective takes on where you're feeling like things are at right now. What's the vibe? Come right back. Go ahead.
I go. So
vibe. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I think we have this conversation every year. We've been doing this as a group now for 5 years or so, and every summer we have the same discussion, and I don't think anything's really changed. You definitely have people that are not available on that Saturday or Sunday during the summer to go to shows. They're out with their families, they're mowing their lawns, they're painting their houses, all the stuff you couldn't do during the rainy season or the snow season. So their weekends are booked now. So they're going on vacations, extended weekends, kids are out of school. So yeah, there's going to be less people at the monthly shows, whatever it is. But I always add this part that as of, last night.
I was going to go where you're going. Yep.
As of last night, there's one major sport being played.
Yep.
And that truly affects out of sight, out of mind. And with only one of the four major sports in North America, only one is being played for the next, until September, right? So that slows things down. As a hockey fan, I'm devastated that the hockey season's over. It's like this is horrible. It's when you're hearing about games and you're excited about your team, you're excited about the players on the ice, that may make you go, I want to get a McDavid card. I want to get an Ovechkin card. I want to get a Marchand card. His stuff must be going crazy right now. But in a very short period of time, out of sight, out of mind. And all you have is baseball. So the people who collect the other three sports, they're going to be kicking back until September. So I always add that there's two reasons why this is the slow season. Yes, families and obligations on the weekends are going to take away from the shows, but you also have the fact that there's only one major sport being played. And if you're someone like me who absolutely hates baseball and thinks it is just, I'd rather watch paint dry. There's there's nothing. There's nothing out there to motivate me, to excite me, to spark an interest or a thought of, oh, I want to get this player or that or this team, or there's nothing even, to watch on ESPN to spark something and get you thinking, and then you go, oh, I have an idea of a new way to collect hockey or basketball or football, because it's just baseball.
Wow. So, Brandon, I have some thoughts, and chime in when you're ready. But what I'm thinking is, I am deeply disturbed about Eric's ignorance of the grand old sport of pickleball. Also, we are in the midst of the World Series of Poker, so frankly, I'm offended by your words. There's back to back poker coverage every night. Personally, that's not a joke. I have actually I have Poker Go, and I do watch the World Series of Poker. I enjoy it. I get a kick out of it. So that is on right now as we speak, sir.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
women
then,
were playing
like I said,
last night.
yeah, and we're ignoring the grand sport of pickleball. And I'm
Yeah.
sure there's some lame bike race somewhere out there. I'm sure there's someone on a unicycle as we speak. So what
I
are you
will-
saying, Eric?
Last night, while the NBA Finals Game 7 was being played, Mom and I were downstairs watching mountain bike racing. That's what I was watching. I was watching a mountain bike race while the NBA Final Game 7 was being played, because I really didn't care. I was rooting for Indiana. I was hoping that they'd win, but you have their best player blow his Achilles out in the first quarter. They had no shot.
Well, to Eric's point, and I was going to mention it too, with the sports, you're in a lull of games being played right now.
Yep.
I actually think that's a bad reason for the buying to stop, because that's the best time to buy, when the players aren't doing anything. Now, we seen in COVID, when the games weren't being played at all, shit skyrocketed. So I don't know. Maybe people have that fear. Football is a wonky one. It actually usually goes up a bit more before the season starts, and then it kind of settles in as you're entering into the season. I was also checking a couple other things here. We just had the cup release in hockey.
Yep.
So high-end product.
Yeah, well, despite the card that we just looked at, which already is crashing cup futures as we speak.
Well, higher end product doesn't have, it's not everybody's audience, and not everybody's going to go after that kind of stuff. And then I was looking at, because I know it's always weird on the release timetables. So for football, you have National Treasures coming out July 23rd. Another product not going to hit everybody's wallet right. Then basketball, same thing. National Treasures August 6th release. So we're in this period. You're going to have some lower end products with the other sports, but you're getting that period where you're getting the upper products released, and that doesn't, that's not everybody's audience. Obviously, I just said I was on vacation. I'm not even a vacation person. So back-to-back years, I've went to the beach. That's saying a hell of a lot. I don't know how my wife tricked me into that, but anyway, people are going on vacation. Speaking of shows, and we're going to get into a little bit of a discussion. We just are coming out of the Fanatics Fest, right?
Yep.
Chantilly is this weekend. I think Dallas is the weekend after that. You're going to start approaching closer and closer and closer to the national. What is that?
Yeah,
Probably
we're about a
4
month
weeks?
out, give or take. We're getting close
Yeah.
because it's right at the end of July, beginning
Right.
of August. So give a month and change.
Yeah, but you have Chantilly, you have Dallas, you have the national coming up. You just came.
Yep.
So these bigger shows, they're starting to hit. People are probably on both ends, buying and selling. Buyers are probably saving their pennies if they're going to any of these shows, and sellers may not be wanting to list their product because they're spending a shitload of money if they're dealers to buy tables at these shows, and they're going to need inventory. So that could also have a little bit of adjustment. I don't know if the Pokemans, like according to what we've heard, people were spending money at the
Yep.
Fanatics Fest. The dealers were saying they did very well. So I don't know that the Pokemans are affecting it as much. I think that audience is built on their own. You might have some crossover there, but everybody always says, even doing the reselling, they say it's the summer slowdown.
Mhm.
I've personally never had it hit and affect as enough
Mhm.
to like really notice it, but
Mhm.
I could see it being a thing because there's a lot going on.
Can I pose a question though? Can I pose a question based on what you're saying? So let me
Mhm.
let me ask this. I think what you're saying is fair, but one thing I would add, and that's why I made a distinction. When I initiated the question, I said, "What are your feelings on the vibes?" The vibes doesn't necessarily mean that it translates to the actual data, because one thing that I believe, eh, stuff is still moving. To your point, when we'll discuss the Fanatics thing, there is stuff that people were still buying. Some stuff people were buying for good money. The stage stuff notwithstanding, I just mean in general, people were buying stuff. So if they want the stuff, right now my issue is for the very specific niches that I'm chasing, a lot of the supply dried out years ago. That's actually as big a challenge as anything else. It's just the stuff that I want isn't out there every day. When I do see it, I pounce on it if the price point is like, for example, that Crease Medano card is it. Under normal circumstances, I let that one go right by. But it was a 1 in 800 pack pull from 25 years ago, and the supply that has been available over time. So beggars cannot be choosers on that one. I can't just wait for the next one to come by. I could, but it's a little tougher when they don't come up very often.
So on the vibe front, I think you're going to get a lot of the excitement coming out of this fest and going into the national. You're going to have a lot of talks. It's already begun about comparing the two shows. And then,
Yeah.
as I mentioned, you got Dallas and Chantilly packed, at least those two. I don't know if there's any other bigger shows, but I know at least those two regionally are going to be packed sandwiched in the middle there. I I'm not speaking for myself, and I could be completely off basis here. But I'm wondering if we're not, we talked about earlier how many products are released now, how many shows are out there because there's more and more and more and more shows all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if the fatigue isn't setting as well
Yeah.
because you're going to have people traveling to all these things. You got all these products. I just mentioned the higher end products coming out. Like there is a period where people have to like hit pause. Just hit pause for a minute, recuperate. It's a lot, and I think all three of us are in a position that. And I actually had this. I was thinking about this earlier today about doing a video on it, but I'll share these thoughts here. It's always phrased as the hobby, okay? It's generalized as the hobby. But I really think when we dive into it, it's fractionalized into many different pieces. People are doing so many different things, they approach it in so many different ways, but yet at the same time, everybody wants to banter and bicker and all of that and associate it as one general hobby. I think the three of us are capable of not always just needing to constantly go grasp, just constantly go after it because we have things that we've keyed in on that we appreciate, we hunt down, we enjoy without the constant need to be involved. I think there's others that feel like, and I'm not going to throw names out, but there are some people that feel like they have to be a part of everything to give themselves a name. They have to feel, um, I guess, it makes them somebody if they're doing everything, so to speak. You have to have a balance. You have to have really a balance within yourself and know what you want to do with inside this generalization of the hobby, or else you're going to get burned out. And I think everybody hits that at some point. So maybe summer, maybe with all of these bigger shows crammed in. Why we do them in the summer? Like, I get travel wise, it's not, great to do it in the winter if it's snowing and shit in Chicago, but why in the summer?
So I think one thing I would throw out there though, and kind of playing into what you were pointing out or what you were describing, I like the idea of spreading things out a little bit. So if people are out at the cottage, out at the lake, if the show isn't filled to the brim, that can still be okay because it can
Mhm.
still like we talk about it kind of when we do the expo discussion. The best day to really negotiate, discuss something at length and really take your time and really is the VIP night. The Friday, Saturday is very busy. Sunday, the last couple of years is starting to get busy. The show fills up pretty good. But VIP night, some of the dealers gripe about it, but as a buyer, it's actually great because you can walk around nice and comfortable. You're able to maneuver very quickly and move. You could, if you wanted to, just kind of do a zigzag back and forth, scan, preset some deals, or if you find something that, hey, you know what, that price point is good, you can do the conversation and negotiation now in peace, relatively speaking. So I'm going to see, I may attend a show or two around here during the summer. And if it is a little quieter because of that, see what advantages there is to that as a result of having a little bit more space and bandwidth. Because then the dealers might also be interested in dealing too. So it's like there is a plus and minus to it. When it's super busy and everybody's cramped into a space and they're a captive audience, yes, that will add to the energy level and the vibe. But it also means you're cramped. It also means you're constantly bumping into. It's a little annoying to be bumping into people constantly.
Eric, you've hit some shows up in your area that aren't, on a massive scale. And I did a video on this talking about it probably 3.5 years ago. I actually enjoy, and maybe this is just me personally, I enjoy small shows because I don't know why, and I'm gonna go outside of cards here for a second, but I realized that this weekend, because on our way back, there's a big route sale in North Carolina, and Friday I was scatterbrained because there was tons of people out. It was busy, trying to get off the highway and everything else, and then you go to these, you stop at these stops where sales are, and think of it as a show, and there's 50 dealers set up all in one small area, and I'm just thinking, okay, I've got to get through here quick because I need to get further. I was just scatterbrained. Saturday, when I was hitting the smaller areas and there wasn't as many people out early in the morning, I was able to think and process way better. And I actually feel the same way at shows. If you're in a larger show with a massive amount of people, I know I do the same thing. I feel like I gotta go and look at everything and try to hit everything, but at a small show, I think it's more relaxed. You can look at things easier. You can deal with the dealers easier, but I think the dealers are also more relaxed and reserved to negotiate because normally those shows, the tables are cheaper. So they don't feel like, oh my God, I've spent $1,500, $2,000 to set up here. I've got to make this back or I'm going home in the negative, kind of
and
thing. So,
and and on that point, they're more apt to negotiate because they're only going to see. I'm making up numbers. They're only going to see 100 people today
right, instead of 1,000. Yeah.
instead of 1,000. So somebody comes and drops a number on you. You're like, no, 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 no. I still have 900 people that might come
Right.
by. Give me a better number, right? If your number, the 70th person on a Sunday afternoon, and the guy's thinking, man, I only got like 30 people left here. Yeah, all right, I'll make the deal. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I definitely think you're right about everything you've said. I agree with, and I prefer going to smaller shows.
Yeah, it's
You
more
know?
personable. And I think
Oh yeah.
sometimes you find things that you probably wouldn't have seen at the bigger show because you're not going to go through everything at the big show. But at a smaller show, you can sit there and dig through them boxes and everything. Because again, on the reverse side of it, the dealer knows, well, I'm only have 100 people. You as a buyer know, well, I only got 30 tables I got to look at.
Yeah.
or 50 tables or whatever. So it's kind of that end too on your side as a buyer. So, you know, I know that you hit some of them up your area. I've went to some smaller ones here in my area, and I actually really enjoyed it. Chantilly's great, but sometimes those smaller casual
Oh yeah.
shows. Carlos, you've set up with Bobby at the one that was kind of smaller, and you've
Yeah.
talked about how you did as a dealer side there.
Hmm.
So,
Yep.
um, I really think it's all about what your intent is of going to card shows and what you expect to get out of it.
Yeah. Well, I
So,
think key to that, since we talked about that story previously, was that Bobby obviously soured on it because it's become very much the Pokemans. So, the
yeah,
spirit of Eric took over and it became Pokemans. But the reality is the price of the tables, since it was a smaller show, the price of the tables was such that it actually allowed, because one of the things I did is I had some cards at different price points, but I had a 25-cent box.
and you
If
can
you're
make
setting up at a show,
profit there.
yeah,
Yep.
and for me it was getting rid of volume. And if somebody had grabbed the stack, I was happy to discount it because it's like at this point, for me, these cards are effectively free. Please take them away. That was the
Hmm.
goal here. The goal here was to get rid of volume. I wanted less weight to carry back to the car. So, but if you're at a show where the table's $1,500, and we'll segue this into Fanatics Fest in a second. But when the table's $1,500, or your cut of it is $1,500, or however you want to slice it, well, the 25-cent box might not make sense. Like, yeah, okay,
The
great.
real
You
estate,
reduced the volumes, but you didn't even take the edge off coffee.
yep, the real estate becomes more expensive, which means
Correct.
it becomes more valuable.
Correct.
And that's a thing over the last several years that I've heard a lot of people talking about. You go to some of these bigger shows where the tables are more expensive, and you'll hear a lot of times there wasn't any or there wasn't many value boxes. And
Hmm.
people love those. They love digging in them because sometimes
Yeah.
you can find stuff that you're not seeing in a display case because it's
Yeah.
not worth putting in a display case.
Correct.
But vice versa, if the table costs so much, it's not worth their real estate to put that value box there because they got a lot of money that they got to make up.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. And at a smaller show, you can do those 25-cent box, 50-cent box, dollar box, even $5, $10, $20 box had a fair bit of activity because that's a price point. We talked about this before. Most of the hobby is not buying $1,000 cards. Most of the hobby is not buying $500 cards. Most of the hobby day to day is not buying $100 cards.
right.
And it's important to remember that because the average person is not doing that. At this point, we've all become bougie like Eric. It's just we've become drunk on the like button money. Like it's a different problem. It's a different thing. Now I just throw $100 bills at children just so they get out of my way. And it's because of Eric, basically.
Paying
But
for
back in the
convenience.
day, when I could relate to the commoners, before that, uh, $100 is a lot of money to pay for a piece of cardboard. Like it's a lot of money, and for most people, it's not going to happen most of the time. Or it might be an extravagance. It might be like, hey, you know what? This is like a grail card for you, so you'll spend the $100. It's not a normal thing. So that's important. So then shows where it actually allows the dealers, the shows that allow the weekend warriors who are not professional dealers who will bring the 50-cent box or the dollar box. Hey, I got a crap ton of stuff. Let me move on some of this. And you can go through and find a couple of, maybe you'll find a $20 card in there for $1. Congratulations. Like it happens. But the point is, if the dealer isn't there stringently sorting through everything and you can find a couple of gems in there, it motivates somebody to go digging through the boxes and maybe find some stuff. But if it's
It's
$1,000 a table, it ain't happening.
I think the best way to describe it is the volume dealer versus the value dealer. The
Yeah.
volume dealer is they're going to take advantage of the small show, the cheap table. They're going to bring the cheap boxes. They know they're going to sell stuff, but they're going to sell it in volume. The
Mhm.
value dealer, they're going to go to the shows that are bigger, got a larger audience. They're going to pay more for the table, but they're also taking a higher risk because then they're going to need to sell those higher value cards.
Yeah, exactly. And as I say, I wanted to bring up the question because that is always something, to Eric's point. Yes, it is something we talk about every cycle, but it's still worth revisiting because obviously each year can be its own thing. We see basically how it plays out. In this case, it please to play out that way. One thing to your point, some of these shows that have the Pokemans and some of the stuff are doing fine. They're doing a bustling business. The Fanatics Fest, which we'll talk about in a second, was doing pretty good foot traffic, especially considering it was more expensive to get in. The tables were more expensive, all this stuff. But there could be different reasons for that. But some of those dealers were able to sell some nice cards. And look, all I got to say, if it's indicative of the market, Eric, here's all I need to know. Right now, as we speak, I've got not one, but two 2018 Donruss Optic Downtown Chosen Rosen cards, and they're both getting dangerously close to $100 because the damn thing will never drop in price. It's so annoying.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I want to blame the set collectors for this, Brandon, the downtown set collector, but like there's literally two of them and they're all both approaching $100 already. Like, damn it.
I think with that card, you're fighting the repackers.
Oh, I'm totally fighting the repacker. Like,
yep, because they can say, well, there's a downtown in here. Doesn't matter that it's Josh Rosen. There's a downtown in here.
Brandon, one day, my dream is just to buy this stupid downtown card on the cheap. I'm trying to get it for Reggie Lemon money.
Downtown cards are stupid. When are people going to realize that? They're really, really dumb.
I don't mind.
They're not attractive. They're cartoonish. They're stupid.
I don't
lie, Eric. If they made a Reggie Lemon with a second photo, you're in. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
right.
I'll take the Topps version of it, the Hometown Heroes. I like them because they incorporate, little bits of the cities or whatever. I don't have a problem with them. I think they've gone a bit too far with the pricing and all of that, but that's to each their own, Like I was telling you guys before we started recording, I have been in patience mode. Obviously, as a Nationals fan, we've had a lot of rookies this year, and I haven't bought a first one. I've been just sitting and waiting for everything to simmer down. I've learned my lesson. Give it time. Be patient. The prices will get where I want to buy them at, and that's the game I've been playing. So,
in regards to your opinion on downtowns, you have the right to your opinion, and I respect that right. But I just want to remind everyone that you are an ass.
That's okay. Wow.
So, a well-known, documented ass. So, I just want to remind everyone of that.
I see. Well, before we move on to Fanatics Fest, all I have to say is in regards to the scandalous words spoken by Eric earlier about there being nothing. Look, all I've got to say is tonight, as we speak, on Poker Go's YouTube channel, you can see day 2 coverage of the $1,000 Battle of Ages. Just saying. Eric, you should be excited about this. The Battle of Ages is fantastic. There's 2 different flights. One of them is aged for players aged 50 and older. Your people. And the other one is for age 50 and younger.
People.
It's your people.
I know.
Your peeps.
You know how disgusting it is that I get stuff from AARP and other retirement stuff. It's like, come on, man.
Oh, I've been getting that since my 20s.
I was going to say.
No joke. Somebody signed me up for that shit, and I got it for years. But question, on the veteran, the veteran side of the poker, do they play with the large cards with the big numbers, or do they still
only for Eric? Eric, the problem, Brandon, is that Eric is the only one who gets dealt the big cards, so everybody knows what he has. Yeah. Everybody else has got regular sized cards, and they're like, and then, if Eric gets a pocket aces, he's got these gigantic oversized cards, and everybody knows exactly what he has. How do you guys know?
His glasses.
Eric keeps on, I'm all in, and they're like, we fold. It's like, how do you guys know every time? They're dealing off the top, man. They're dealing off the top. Look, all I'm saying, Battle of Ages, man. Battle of Ages. Day 2 coverage tonight. Brandon, I've legitimately got to enjoy. I've literally put it on the quarter in the evenings. I'll put on the Poker Go. They'll do play-by-play commentary. I got to be honest with you, though, Eric. We always talk about how on the Friday live stream we talk about nothing. They're doing play-by-play commentary of the poker. But the thing is, because the hands can take whatever time they take, and sometimes a player is thinking about something for a while, they're sitting there and they're having to kill time. So they'll just randomly start going off on tangents. And I'm sitting there like, you boys should just join us on the Friday live stream because this is basically what we do.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they'll talk about the
I find-
concessions or random stuff. That
I
the
think
people
one of them
have.
was literally talking about like some side wagers doing so. So I was out, golfing with so and so, and like literally is because the hand is taking the time it takes. You can see what the hole cards are, but there's only so much analysis you can do. You've explained what you need to explain, and now you need to kill some time. So let's talk about some other stuff and kill a little time in between. And it can get entertaining, but sometimes it gets a little dangerous because sometimes the player is like, I don't know if I should say this, and I'm like, that sounds to me like you're trying to get yourself canceled. You're starting down a path. And sometimes they veer close to that line, Eric. Right now, they're sitting there like, Eric, this could be a calling. You could be a Poker Go commentator.
You probably won't be shocked about this, but
you haven't played poker because you don't do anything.
I wouldn't know where to begin other than dealing the cards. I don't know how many to deal. I know nothing about poker. I've never taken interest in it. The only card game I know how to play is solitaire on the computer. I've never taken an interest in it. I don't understand it. I don't know the first thing about it. So
more jokes to come on Friday. Brandon, I'm showing restraint.
I like poker. I like poker. So.
I'm a big fan. Like, listen, if I had an excuse to have a nice home game or something, I would totally play. Like, I enjoyed playing it. It's a fun game for me, and I played quite a bit back in my youths.
I wouldn't know the first. I know this. I know there's cards involved. That's all I know.
The online poker was big for a while.
It was. I played quite a bit. It was very good because at that time we had Poker Stars, we had Party Poker, and you had a Full Tilt was still around at that time before they ran into some issues.
Yep.
Issues.
You can sit there and play in a tournament for hours.
And everybody, about 20 or so years ago, it really exploded. And
it was after Chris Moneymaker.
Yeah. And everybody I knew was playing and had games in their basements and in their man caves with their buddies, and online became really
big. Yep.
Yeah, big. And I still were like, I'm gonna go ride my bike. I don't know. I'm gonna go do something else. Yeah.
Ultimate Bet. I remember them all. It was so good.
Yeah.
It was funny is during the entire time, once they had like the big thing where they shut down the online poker for a while and they kind of cut it back big time outside of certain jurisdictions. What was funny is during that entire time, I was like, no, actually in Canada, we can play online poker the whole time. We've just been kind of like, if you want to, you still can. It's fine.
I always just played in the free ones, and then you could get, if you won
the free rolls,
free tournaments, you could get free entry into the payout tournament. So I would just
I'll just say I won't venture too far into this. But when I was in Vegas for my birthday many moons ago now, the best game we went to Planet Hollywood, and you could do sit and goes, and you could just play in them. And the thing is, the players are so bad. Really, all you have to do is just sit back and wait for premium hands, because the way the sit and go went is that you did your buy-in, and the reality was that some of the players were so overly aggressive, over the top aggressive on nothing, that if you had premium hands, you'd sit back and wait on premium hands. Basically, if you survived 45 minutes to an hour, you were at the final table. Basically, you just needed to avoid getting into a car crash or in the early section. And if you got somebody, you bust them. But other than that, just avoid a car crash and you could get the final table. And I made money just doing that.
I survived in a it was a oh crap, Caesars down it's like kind of near the border of Indiana and Kentucky when I lived out there. I survived being put all in 3 times and doubled up each time. The 4th time was the hand that I should have won. I had full house, queens, jacks, and unfortunately, the guy that put me all in, he had the big stack of the table. He had quad jacks, and there was no reading that shit. I thought he had full house, jacks, queens, while I had queens, jacks, and he had quad jacks, so I got put out.
Tough. Tough times.
Bad
The
beat.
bad
beat.
the bad beat of the week brought to us by Poker Go. We're not sponsored, but we should be. Maybe it should be after since I got the Poker Go
I
subscription.
enjoyed playing. It was fun.
Oh yeah, look, hey Brandon, I'm not joking. Like I would still 100% still play like a semi-regular basis if it was a thing that was an option available. Like I could do online, but I got other stuff to do, and I can't commit too much time to it. It required time. Like if you
Right.
wanted to play consistently, play well, it was a big time sink. That's a big problem.
That's why I said the tournaments were hours.
Yeah, especially if you actually lasted it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you bust in 5 seconds, well, that's a different conversation. But no, if you're actually playing and you're actually trying to advance and get into the money and maybe make some money on it, no, you need to play. You need to play very conservative for a while. Go back and forth between aggressive and conservative. Pick your spots, and because a lot of people just eliminate themselves. If you allow them to eliminate themselves, that you can do that, and it was a successful way of doing it. Anyway, that's it. Poker segment over, unless they sponsor us, in which case then we can talk about it for an hour. But real quick, Fanatics Fest, just to finish off. Couple of quick things I want to hit on. Obviously, I watched a lot of the vlogs and everything, which is fun. It played out kind of the way though that we expected. We talked about it on the live stream and everything. If you're looking at it as a card show, I'll highlight this quickly and then I'll ask my question. If you look at it as a card show, it's going to be silly. It's not a valid comparison to anything, but it has improved as a card show. But it's a fan fest with a card show attached. That's the way I treated it. That's the way I looked at it. And if you look at it like that, I think they accomplished what they're trying to accomplish because they've got all these other things that are designed to be able to participate in it. What I want to see is Eric's shuffle the chips. I want to see him ripple the chips. That's when you're doing it right. That's what I want to see. Anyway, so the point though is if you look at it as a fan fest with a card show attached, I think they did exactly what they're supposed to be doing. They've got the WWE folks out there. They've got the meet and greets. They've got the autographs. They did the SummerSlam press conference. They did all that stuff. That's all events. You know, the Kevin Costner thing. Events. You're getting celebrities and events. That's what you're trying to do. So from that perspective, I think they were successful in trying to do what they're actually trying to accomplish, which is to sell these properties, do these activations, do all this stuff. But if you're looking at it as just a strictly card show, then yeah, it makes no sense because it's just kind of expensive for the dealers. Obviously, the dealers are going to bring high-end inventory because they're paying good money for these tables. But at the same time, if you're out there looking for some nice stuff, they probably brought some nice stuff. And one key takeaway I saw from a lot of folks was the WWE stuff was very popular because the WWE is still very much one of the popular properties that they brought to the Fanatics Fest.
Well, I mean, think about the truly millions of fans the WWF/E has had since, the early 80s, and people have grown up with it. And how many of those are hardcore fans that would love an opportunity to come down that ramp to their favorite wrestlers' music and get it on video and get photos and stuff,
Exactly. Precisely.
I mean, that'd be a lot of fun. And I think, like we were saying with Neo the other day, this is really kind of more of a family thing where, when I drive up to Mississauga for the expo, my family at no point, not when my daughter was young, at any point in time would my family want to come with me to that. But something like Fanatics Fest, there's all these different things and different categories of entertainment, and there's more for families to do, and I think it's a fine event. I've never poo-pooed it or put it down or anything. It's different. No one likes different. As long as you don't tell me it's a card show or it's replacing the National, because that's not the case. It's a completely different event. It's a Comic-Con. It's a card show. It's for Fanatics to show its wares and advertise. It's a convention. A business convention for Fanatics. It's a combination of things. And it seems like everybody that chooses to go and spend a exorbitant amount of money to go do this for the last 2 years, everyone seems pretty positive about it, as opposed to the National a couple of years ago, where they're like, the air conditioners doesn't work, the food sucks, the bathrooms are too few and far between, getting from point A to point B is a hassle. We're concerned about the crime in the area. You don't hear about any of it. You hear the food's fantastic. There's plenty of bathrooms. There's plenty of air conditioning. Everything's great. Transportation of point A to point B isn't a problem. But it's all positive. I haven't heard anything negative last year or this year in regards to the event, unless you want to say it costs too goddamn much. But
Yeah.
the people who are going have plenty of money, so they're not complaining about that.
Well, they know that going in. Like
Yeah.
the reality of it is, so let me touch on a couple points Eric is saying, and I'll kind of direct it this way, and I'll pose a question. Again, to your point, to me, it's not a replacement for the National, because the National is a different thing. However, one thing I would add that maybe is a more controversial thing is, if they tried to replicate the National, that would actually diminish what they're actually trying to do. Because while the National obviously has a big brand and everything, it's not actually a good show. Now, that may be a controversial take, but in reality, to me, it's a large show. It's the biggest show. It's the biggest card show we got, right? It's the biggest thing in the space. But a lot of people, use the term, it's like the Super Bowl of the hobby, so to speak. It's like, no, I think the National is closer to the Super Bowl of the hobby. I think what the National has going forward is the volume and the size, that portion of it. But it's not designed like to be the Super Bowl. If you want to use the Super Bowl comparison, the Fanatics Fest is closer to a Super Bowl analogy, because guess what? The Super Bowl is expensive.
Yep.
The Super Bowl is arguably overpriced. If you
Yeah.
actually want to attend a Super Bowl, now, if you've got the money, you can pay the freight. They will give you that experience. They'll give you that, but it's not for the common man. The common man is not going to the Super Bowl. It's not actually, that's why I say when you use that analogy, it's interesting you mentioned that, because the Super Bowl is the exact opposite of an event designed for the common man. It's designed for the bougie man, the rather bougie man. But if we're talking about, with the National though, what we're talking about, yes, it's not, by the way, the National's not cheap. Let's be clear, because there's still travel fees. There's still hotel. There's still all these things. But the Javits Center, New York, Manhattan is very expensive.
Oh,
If you
God.
get hotels and all that. The Javits Center is a facility designed for kind of Comic Cons and these kind of things. So you're paying the freight. They're designed to be able to handle volume. They're designed to be able to have enough food places, enough bathrooms. The air conditioning should never be a problem for them, because they're designed for that kind of event. And that's what they do. Is analogy I would give you, Eric, is the expo is held at the International Center with all its halls and everything. They do a good job with it, with what they do, but it's not the Metro Toronto Convention Center. There is a facility in Toronto called the Metro Toronto Convention Center, which could dwarf it in square footage. If they needed that space, they could do it, but guess what? Guess what happens to the price? It goes up. And you're doing that would legitimately be the Toronto Expo, because that is in downtown Toronto. That's in the real, it's not in Mississauga, the suburb of Toronto nearby. It's in downtown Toronto proper. Advantages, you want food, Eric? Walking distance. You can go to restaurants. You can go to bars. You can go to all kinds of things. It's all there. Hotels, there's plenty of them around it. You're going to pay through the nose to attend those hotels. Those restaurants are not cheap restaurants, because they're in the downtown core, and you're competing with all the other stuff going on. But you would get upgraded amenities if that's what you want. But they don't do that, because it's a cost benefit thing. You're trying to satiate the people that are doing what they want to be doing. The National is trying to do that to a degree as well. So it's this tricky thing, because they've got so many people going through the door, but they're not trying to give you a premium experience. Because if they try to give you a premium experience, well, the price goes up. And it already feels expensive. So what happens if the price goes up more?
The best part about, this doesn't even apply to you or me, because I drive and you're only a few miles away. But the best part about the expo's location is to cross the street from the airport.
Yep.
People are flying from all over Canada, mostly. Many from the United States. You land, you take a cab, Uber, a mile or two to your hotel, and that's on the same stretch. You could literally walk if you chose to,
Mhm.
back and forth from your hotel to the convention center. So location, location, location. So there might be something fancier and nicer and more amenities in downtown Toronto, but with traffic, and if anyone's ever been to Toronto, there's always a disgusting amount of traffic. It's an hour. So you don't want that. You want to get off your plane and be at your hotel and be in walking distance to the event you go into. So I hope they don't change it because I don't want to deal with Toronto traffic.
Well, I don't think they will. The reason I use the analogy though is I gave it to give you
Right.
the
Yeah.
difference between a Javits Center versus what a lot of even now what they're going to do with the next potential national after the Chicago run here. They're looking at Detroit and they're looking at Atlanta. These two facilities are more closely aligned with what the modern kind of convention facility will be because they're designed for these bigger. Detroit is designed to hold the auto show. As a result, they will simply have more room. That's going to be part of the deal. Presumably, they've upgraded some of the stuff nearby. Well, I hope they did, because if that's the case, that would be beneficial. Atlanta is going to be hot as hell in late July, early August, but they do have a conference center and a facility. Like I watched one of the videos where they showcase some of this stuff. They've got a facility over there. They've got a lot of stuff going on with it. It will be an upgrade. So the National is looking to upgrade slightly. Now, it is kind of interesting. I guess the question would be, is it because they've realized that, hey, you need more space now with the sheer amount of massive humanity now they're dealing with? Or are they kind of responding to the fact it's like, yeah, you better go up market at least a little, just a smidgen. You're not going to Javits Center. You're not going to Vegas. You're not going to somebody because those facilities are going to cost even more. But can we go a step above the current? Because you're going to need a little more room in there.
Yeah. I mean, if you need the room, then you gotta think about these things. But
Oh, at this point, they've pressed the button. I think Chicago is going to be packed. I think it's going to be wall to wall. I think it's going to be actually my opinion. I agree with a lot of what some of the folks are thinking in their heads. I actually think it's going to be a very uncomfortable experience the next couple of years because I think Chicago has now been oversized to house the amount of people that are going to come in, at least for the next show or two. I guess if you make it miserable enough the next show, maybe the show after that, it'll actually discourage some people from attending because they're having trouble getting the hotel rooms nearby. They're having trouble getting some of these things. Well, that's going to escalate the costs. And imagine what kind of an experience is it if you can barely get in the building? Every movement requires like you to, be Barry Sanders in his prime and do some cuts and be able to
yeah,
like bob and weave just to be able to get through and move from north to south or east, south to west, south to north. I don't think that's a great experience for you as the individual attending this
well,
said
that's
show.
what Brandon was saying earlier about the smaller shows. That they're a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah.
I've been to major shows like the Expo. I've been to medium-sized shows like Shriners, but I still enjoy, like Brandon was saying, with all his points. I agree with all of his points. I'd rather go to, a 50, 75 table show and a small, VFW hall and really enjoy myself and take my time and look at each table and not feel rushed or, you know, feel like there's someone breathing down my neck and being able to talk to the dealers. And, I like small shows because some of those major shows like you're talking about the national, it, they're not fun all the time. Okay. There's a lot going on. I mean, you're in there like a sardine trying to look over at this and see that and try to get the dealer's attention. And I see this one and yeah, in a minute, and he's got a deal going on over there. And it's it's not always enjoyable. You almost feel like you're working at a major show. Like you're it yeah, it feels like a job. Where at a small, 50 table show, you're there on a Saturday or a Sunday and your day off. You got time to kill. You're having fun. You're seeing familiar faces, catching up with people, from the area. And I think that's a lot more enjoyable sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So,
So
Brandon, you got a last thought on this? Go ahead.
so I don't want to be Debbie Downer here.
Ooh, be Debbie
So
Downer. This will be
I'm
fun.
going to
Go.
use
My job.
I'm going to use Victor's advice that he
Ooh,
gave a few weeks ago by
fancy.
phrasing this up front
Mm.
that this is my opinion. Okay. I have no interest in the Fanatics Fest. And I'll tell you a reason why. It's compared to often, as we've been hearing, to like a Comic Con, right? We hear that quite often. But it's focused on sports and athletes.
And
Comic
wrestling.
cons, Comic cons are focused on anime, cartoons, comic books,
Movies.
make believe shit, TV shows, pop
Yep.
culture, that sort of
Yep.
thing, right? The last time I checked, you don't get tickets to go watch a TV show live as it's being filmed. But you can get tickets to go watch a basketball game or a baseball game or a football game. I really don't have the interest in seeing somebody on a stage talking that is supposed to be a professional athlete. I don't really have a damn care if they're walking up to a table and buying a card. That's not why I would be interested in these individuals. I want to see them play in the sport. So why would I pay to go to an event that they're at, not doing what they're professionally aligned to do, and why they're a part of these cards to begin with? Like Fanatics has literally perfected the money machine so far that they felt the need to make a card of Kevin Durant on the stage pretending that he just found out that he was traded. Give me a damn break. You
No,
think
that's
that man did not know he was being traded before he walked out onto that stage? I don't believe that. Timing would be way too coincidental. But anyway, to compare it to the National, I also said, so just so we're not saying, oh, he's a hater or whatever, I said at the National, I did not like the corporate area, which is what essentially Fanatics Fest is. It's a big corporate commercialized event.
yeah.
Fanatics is promoting Fanatics.
Right.
Fanatics is promoting Fanatics athletes, Fanatics products. I said in 2022 that my least favorite thing was the corporate event or the corporate area. They had it smack in the middle of the show floor. It broke up the dealers and everything. You had to go through there to get from one side to the other. I did not like that. I said it was my least favorite part. So I'm staying true to what I said then. I'm not interested in Fanatics Fest. Like, cool idea. Obviously Fanatics is very good at marketing and business. They've grown their company. They got their hands in everything sports related. Good for them. I just personally and I don't see it as something I wouldn't want to spend the money to go to it. Now, in terms of the National, it's fun, and this is going to sound repetitive, but you guys and going to the expo, especially you, Eric, it's fun because you're hanging out with people that you've made friends with, you've built a relationship with, you have some similarities, some similar interests, that sort of thing, right? It's not just a card show. You're going there, seeing people that are friends, spending time with them. It's a little vacation, a getaway with cards, that you might buy, etc., along the way. That's what those shows really are. I don't think that I shouldn't say nobody, because I'm sure there's some vintage, collectors of that sort of thing that have pieces that they're strategically trying to mark off their list. Maybe even some more modern folks go there, but it's not necessary anymore to spend a couple grand to go to a card show to get in the door to then try to find a specific piece you need, especially with the day and age of the internet, right? So it is more about the experience, the friendships, and all of that, and not just the cards. If you just want to go to a card show, again, they're everywhere, usually weekly. There's probably one in your neighborhood unless you live in, I don't know, North Dakota or something. So to compare the two, I don't think it's doable. Um, and then on the aspect of comparing it to a Comic Con, I mean, last time I checked, sports is an event we all can like go and watch. I don't have any interest in watching anybody on a stage talk, paying to watch them. Like we talk about how much these people charge for autographs or a picture. I damn sure don't want to pay to go sit and watch them on a stage talk. Like, no, it's not for me.
Oh, I think that's fine, and it's one of those things where I'd be inclined to agree with you. Although I think it's interesting because whenever they do the comparison of the two, I've thought about this because obviously we've talked about it on the live and everything. I have no interest in going to the national. My not national coverage is one of my favorite things at this point. It doesn't make sense for me. It's not something I would be interested in doing.
I think you would enjoy the wrestling though at Fanatics Fest, because and
So
that's
that so
something I
that so
meant
Br-
to.
Brandon, that's the point I was going to get at though. If you'd said Carlos, you must attend one of the two, Fanatics Fest, I'd be more inclined just
Right.
because it plays more into my sensibilities. There is nothing that the National offers me that I would give a shit about. It's not that they don't have cards; they've got plenty of cards. That's not the issue. The thing is, I can get cards anywhere. I don't need to go there to get cards. And the idea is like, oh, well, it's not just about the cards; it's about the people. Yeah, but now it's a very expensive vacation now.
Right.
So
Right.
now it's like, and the advantage that Fanatics Fest has with the location they've selected is that okay, if you go to the Javits Center, you're also in New York.
Yep.
So you want to do something that's not related to the Fanatics Fest, you can do that. You can attend other things related to go out and get a bite to eat. Go do this, go do that. There's plenty of stuff there. Like you're not confined to just have to attend Fanatics Fest while you're in the area.
At that same token, though, okay, Eric, you're not far from New York. For me, I think it's maybe 6 hours, something like that. It's not extremely out of, I've been there on a
Yeah.
bus back in high school. If I'm going to New York, I'm going to be doing it in like the fall, closer to when the holiday stuff's coming around and all of that. I don't want to go up there in the ass crack of summer. I mean, unless you want to go, I guess, to a Yankee game or Met game if they're in town or whatever. But other than that, I wouldn't want to go up there at this time of year. Um, I do think if you were to, like you said, pick between the two, you having the interest in the wrestling. But I meant to mention this when I was, talking earlier. I didn't hear much about the wrestling thing this year. I was seeing more people talking about Wemby or whatever Skeen's girlfriend's name is.
Oh, Olivia Dunn. Yeah.
Yeah, Livy Dunn. Her name
Yeah.
escaped me.
Well, so Brandon, I'll say that depends on your feed. I got plenty of the wrestling stuff because I follow channels that follow
Well, I'm
it. So
talking
I
about
literally
like
got
even
I got
conversations of like what was being shared in the Discord, what people were
yeah
sending me in messages,
yeah yeah
what I was seeing on Instagram, what Tops was posting. Like
yeah yeah.
it was, I was getting flooded with all of that kind of stuff. But last year, it was everybody sharing these cool walkouts and all of that stuff. And it was less of the cards. Now, I get it. People complained that there wasn't much cards last year. Maybe that's why they were trying to say, hey, look, we have cards this year.
I actually think they tried to I think one of the takeaways that I've heard is that they did a better job balancing it. So they improved the card show aspect of it by putting it in a better position relative to the rest of the activities, which in turn helped the cards, which in turn helped the other events. They also wanted to talk about Wemby. They didn't just want the WWE part. They knew the WWE folks would be able to do what was being asked of them because
Right.
they're basically trained to do this. So they know exactly.
Right.
You pick one of these WWE folks and they're like, "Hey, I need you to go address the crowd. I need you to hype them up. I need you to do this. I need you to do that." They're like, "Yeah, got you. No problem." They literally know how to do this. They're trained on how to do this exact play to the crowd and do all this stuff. So they're going to play their role. So in reality, what you found was that the WWE folks still did what they do normally, but I think because some of the other stuff got a bump and they did a better job with it, the other stuff, they were able to
It was
give you
being
more of a balanced
advertised more.
approach. Yeah, they were able to give you more of a, because if they just focus on the WWE thing, you're basically saying that they didn't do a good job of the rest of it because, well, you're going to focus on whatever is going to show it the best. Well, in this case, them doing a better job on the other stuff meant they didn't have to emphasize the WWE thing and bash you over the head with it every 5 seconds. They could actually, hey, we can talk about this other stuff that is also going on.
I think overall, as a collector, as someone that enjoys sports cards and that sort of thing, but also looking at it on the business aspect, I understand and I think they're doing, again, I said, a few moments ago, Fanatics is very good at marketing. They're very good at the business end of things. They're very good at growing. They know how to grow, to get that company out there. I think this does a good job of that, especially to the younger crowd, because to get this generation of youth into being interested in a piece of cardboard, I think them seeing the athletes, them seeing the stars or the celebrities or whatever, that might help them get interested because we've had conversations in the past about a kid a kid's attention span to go to watch a baseball game or something is kind of hard these days.
Mm-hmm.
But taking them there and letting them maybe have an interaction with an athlete or a celebrity, that's a memory then that's drawing them in. Okay, so I think in that aspect to the youth, I think they're playing their cards right, no pun intended, of maybe getting the attention of that crowd. For the older crowd, I don't know that it does as much.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just my opinion, but I don't know that it does as much because I'm not like trying to be Debbie Downer, but I really wouldn't have any interest in seeing any of them people on stage talking and stuff. It just wouldn't
Well,
interest me.
so I think though, so let me summarize it this way: what you're saying. I think the point that we're getting at here, and I think the point that you made here a moment ago, is that for the demographic they're actually targeting, this
Yeah.
is the right presentation to fit it. You're
Right,
not the part of that demographic. So, but that's
right.
okay. So for your purposes, it might not make sense, but for this other audience that is enthusiastic, so the folks that were at that SummerSlam press conference, just think about this in concept. It's a press conference to a wrestling event that isn't going to happen for a couple months.
Mhm.
You're literally watching people talking, hyping up an event that they want to get money from you to either order on pay-per-view or stream or to buy tickets to months from now. They're literally selling you the opportunity to sit in on an infomercial for an event that won't take place for a couple months.
The whole thing, and even the athletes buying the cards and everything. Like I said,
Yeah.
obviously the way I put it is it all felt staged, and you came back. Well, it has to be staged,
Yeah.
obviously. Okay,
And I want to
it,
touch on that in a second. I want to get back to that in a second, but go ahead.
but to my point on what I meant by it felt staged, the event in itself is a huge advertisement of Fanatics, the hobby, the cards, what they're trying to do, the direction they're trying to go. And like I said, I do think it does help them capture some of the younger audience. I
Yeah.
don't know that it's necessarily designed, as you mentioned, the demographic that's already there. Why do they need to draw us in? We've been doing this shit for years, right? So
Yeah.
they don't need to pull us in. They don't need to get us interested. they need the future, the follow-ups, the younger ones to be drawn in. And I do think it probably is doing a good job of that.
Yeah, I think it's fair. But that's why I say it. Like, I think for the audience, it's trying to hit. And I think the important takeaway was that for people that are analyzing it and you saying, oh, I'm not interested in that, my response would be like, that's okay. It's not necessarily for you.
Right.
And that is also okay. That the point is, it's for the audience it's for. It's not going to be for everyone. For me, I don't need to go to either one of these things. But like I said a moment ago, if you tell me, hey, you got to attend one of them, I'd be more inclined to do FanFest just because honestly, I'd probably get more out of it. Just for me.
And here's the side that also might not make a lot of sense. Fanatics Fest, I would not be interested in going into, but I would think a Comic Con would be fun. And it's for the simple nature, the stuff that the Comic Con is designed for, comics, pop culture, that sort of thing, you can't go to it as a live event. It's kind of make believe, but it's collectibles and that kind of stuff is there. Whereas I can go watch a basketball game of the Spurs and see Wemby actually doing what he's good at. So I think that's kind of where like it might not make sense. Like, well, why would you want to go to that? But that I think it's just more because I would rather go see these guys play a game or whatever than be there with cameras following them around buying cards or on a stage talking. So, but I would be interested in going to a Comic Con.
Sure. I think that's fair. All right, Eric. So I'll tell you what, I'll let you have the last word and then I'll ask one quick question. The last one will be just a quick question and then we'll finish off on it. So any last thoughts on this general thing? So when are we expecting you to be doing your debut at Fanatics Fest fighting CM Punk in Thunderdome?
I have some irons in the fire of with an event with the former New England Patriots quarterback in Thunderdome next year at Fanatics Fest.
Mac Jones is coming back, huh?
And
Steve Grogan is coming back.
And listen, don't just be careful. Don't be.
You're the one who's fighting Steve Grogan, not me. Go on.
Don't besmirch the greatest quarterback in New England Patriots history, Steve Grogan. No,
listen, Eric. My expectation is that you take a dive for Steve. That's all I'm saying. But go on.
For Steve, I would take a dive, but for this other guy, I'm gonna beat the $5,000 out of him that he owes me.
Wow. I don't know. That guy looks like a bit of a serial killer. He'd probably take you with the broken hip too. Listen, there's just your weakness is too known. It's too known by the people.
He stole $5,000 from me, and I want it back.
All right. Last question, because kind of in this thing where we talked about, we discussed the whole kind of more contrived social media posts, the purchases and everything. Just for the sake of saving some time, because we're right at the end of the episode, let's do this. Accepting that all of these events are staged to varying degrees. And I'll just highlight it this way and we'll do it this way. Accepting every single one of the things you saw on social media was staged to varying degrees. Whether the athlete actually wanted the item and then they sent people to go and vet, find the dealer that had the thing and they arranged it, or whether Michael Rubin personally paid for it, or whether they set the whole thing up from front to back and everybody scripted it down to the letter. I think most of them were kind of in the middle. I think most of them were, you sent people out to do feelers, find the items that these people might want, or find the items that they would like to showcase that they're purchasing. Regardless, that's why I say, like, both things can be true, by the way. Both things can be true because maybe the athlete has some interest in certain things, but you're going to make it easy for them. You're going to send people to go scout. They'll find the thing and then they'll take you straight there. But to me, you kind of have to do that, Eric, because realistically, even if the athlete genuinely wants the item, intends to pay for it in full, they're not walking table to table to table, because if you're an athlete surrounded by people, that's a pain in the ass. No, because to be honest, the real athletes who do collect, they're doing it anonymously. They're doing it. Yeah, they might showcase their collection, but they have people they hire to do Mike Trout buys some Mike Trout cards. He's not the one physically attending. He's got people. He sends someone, an emissary, whose only job it is to purchase this on his behalf and bring it back to him. He is not the one physically purchasing the item in person.
I have no problem with them, quote, setting things up for content. You know, this is an entertainment thing.
It is,
all right?
totally.
So it's all about entertainment. It's about getting people to connect with athletes and other celebrities. I don't care that it's all, you know, made up or set up, you know, and Tom Brady happens to walk by and sees his rookie card and gets excited, and you know what, that's fine. I don't care if they set it up. All right. It's, you know, the dealer is getting some free press, hopefully maybe some money in their pocket. The show is getting promoted. More people are going to see that and go, oh my God, look, there's my favorite athlete that's there and bought a card. And I don't care. It's all promotion, and it's fine with me. I don't care.
So I have one question on it though,
Go ahead.
because this is the problem that I have with it. It's being presented as genuine. Now, some people are going to understand that maybe it's scripted, staged, however you want to put it.
Yeah.
Some people are going to believe what's being put in front of them. The reason I have a problem with it is because even before all of this, we've had a lot of questions about legitimacy of sales pre-Fanatics Fest. And now this just throws even more fuel in the fire of what do we believe that goes on. You know, that's my biggest thing with it is the transparency of it. And you know, if they were going and just looking at it or whatever and being like, oh, that's cool, that I think would be a lot better of a look. And I also found it really funny, and I think other people have chimed in on it. You have these million, you know, Livy and Wemby, two of the biggest named athletes in sports right now, really, and they're going to sit there and negotiate. So that part I did find hilarious. I also found hilarious that one of the biggest stories of the whole event was the $500,000 sale.
Yeah, the
of
Roth cards
Jaden.
card, the Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a Panini card being sold at Fanatics Fest. So
Yep.
I did think that was pretty funny. But
No, for sure. So maybe to put a button on it this way. And like I said, we can revisit this conversation, but we're right at the end of the podcast. I didn't want to take too much time on it. But like I said, I agree with you. Some people may look at it and go and think it's legitimate. I think your argument is strongest if you're looking at it. I actually think like the $500,000 one, I treat it as like, you know, whatever. You could have said $5 million, whatever. It makes no difference to me. Like you may as well be making up the number.
I just thought the Panini card at the Fanatics Fest thing was the funny part.
Well, I think that's I think given though the Jaden Daniels angle, that it's out of necessity. You don't have a Topps card that you could do that with, so you your hand is forced. I think though that the point is valid. That if you're presenting something as a legitimate sale, like I said, for me, I'll follow what Eric's saying. I don't really care because again, I'm treating it. Let me put it this way: I am treating it the same way that I treat the SummerSlam press conference. In that you've got people putting on a performance. CM Punk went and started trash talking Seth Rollins, and they got into a pushing and shoving match and had to do a pull apart. Well, it's a WWE press conference. What did you expect? Like this is
beers.
Yeah, but the point is that what did you expect? This is we're putting on a show for you. This is a stage show we are presenting for your entertainment and edification. The audience understood what they're seeing. They're seeing exactly what they should expect to see under these circumstances. Perfectly reasonable, perfectly normal, totally get it. So, but in that instance, because it's WWE, everybody just accepts it as par for the course. To me, the Livy Dunn purchase, to me, the Roth cards purchase, to me, all the rest. Eric, as far as I'm concerned, I don't look at it any differently than I look at Seth Rollins and CM Punk jaw-jacking before being pulled apart.
Oh, yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, it's a performance.
But rule number one comes into play, and we know that there will be many, just by the way it was shared around. And
Sure,
all
yeah. Sure.
Many people are going to believe it, and I know that's the intent. That's the intent.
Yeah.
Hey, look, Livy Dunn's in the cards. Hey, look, Wemby's in the cards. Hey, you know, that was my only thing with it. If you want to show them interested, I don't know that approach. I just don't like the approach to it.
I get it. I think though the problem is, like, even if, again, going back to what I said a moment ago, even if the celebrity in question had a genuine interest, you pretty much are forced to stage it. You don't really have a way of getting around this problem because you're doing it in a way that most of them who do collect, the ones who actually do, they're not doing it this way. They're not going to the card show with a camera beside them.
Right.
they're trying to be incognito. They're doing the opposite. They're trying to downplay so as not to create problems for themselves when they're trying to do a transaction, or doing it through intermediaries. As I said, they will. I want to buy this. This is what I'm looking to pay. Negotiate. Do whatever you got to do and get whatever XYZ. And realistically, I don't care if you're a celebrity. I don't care if you have a lot of money. Guess what? People with a lot of money tend to be the ones who want to negotiate things. They want it cheap. They want it cheap or they want it free. Having money doesn't change that reality that unless their intention is to flex how much they paid for it, Eric, they want to negotiate. They want to knock down the price. And especially if they're famous, they're like, oh no, because I'm famous, you should give it to me for free or super cheap. It's the opposite. It's like they want it as cheap as possible most of the time. But yeah, they're not going to be prancing around going like, hey, let me walk over to this dealer table at a card show in front of everybody and let me do some kind of a transaction.
Well, one reason I mentioned the negotiating part was because if you noticed, and specifically the Livy and the Wimby, because they're the two that come to mind that were negotiating, it gives the perspective because both of the dealers agreed on the negotiated price. When we know, we hear it all the damn time that dealers won't negotiate, they won't come to a reasonable price, they won't be realistic. And now we have two examples right there that they negotiated and agreed.
Yeah.
So
And
it
I
was
will
more
say
of that
there
aspect of it too. But
yeah, for sure. And kind of to Eric's point from earlier, there was the captain something on Instagram. I follow him. He does a lot of football cards. He was one of the beneficiaries last year of the social media negotiation with Tom Brady on a card. He did a whole speech talking about some aspect of the card, giving some background or something, and that exchange was shared on social media. And it went viral and it went and everything. And the dealer who did it obviously was then able to do a live where he discussed it and talked about it. He did a couple podcasts and whatever. And for him and his business, it was actually good because it actually gave him a little bit of a plug. And regardless of selling the card or whatever the sale was, indirectly, it actually gave him a little bit of extra business.
Mhm.
It was good. Like it was a beneficial to him simply being in that moment and having that little viral clip shared, and his information and the fact he was a dealer was all included in that information.
Yep.
So there's a
That-
mutually beneficial thing, and some of these dealers will play along because hey, this can be like a promotional thing for them too. So it's like it can be a win-win. But again, I would always look at it with a skeptical eye. To me, it's not a big revelation saying somebody saying it was staged. It's like yeah, I would go in expecting that, and for going forward in all events future. If it involves the social media posts and stuff that gets circulated, I would treat it like a reality show at its
I
absolute
guess
best.
I guess
Go
in
ahead.
reality it's just up to the game of the what was it 2 years ago or so when we had all these YouTubers going to shows. I spent $10,000 and this and that, and when in reality all they were doing was spending whatnot's money. You know,
Yeah,
so
but
I
that's
guess
what
it's
I'm getting
just
at.
a scaled up level. Now we've went to the athletes and celebrities buying cards instead of
Yeah,
YouTubers.
but that's what I'm getting at is the way I would approach this for everyone is I said I would treat it like a reality show. Even
Yeah.
at your best case scenario, even if you want to take that the person is responding organically to the situation, somebody's still setting up the situation. In reality TV, even when someone is reacting organically to it, it's because the producers put this person and this person who have demonstrated they don't like each other, and then they put them in a room and put them in a situation where they will have to confront each other and then let nature take its course. So in that case, Eric, you don't have to script it. But if you know person A and person B don't like each other, you've gotten that vibe over time. Well, then stick them in a room with each other and force them in a situation where they have to confront. Well, guess what's going to happen? And then
Can
just
we
hit record.
close? Can we close out
Go
on
ahead.
this because you
Go
just
ahead.
gave Fanatics the freaking game plan. There's so much hobby drama within the social media and content space. They could literally just use the content creators and everything, and boom, Have them go at it.
Thunderdome, Brandon. Fanatics
go.
Thunderdome
Next
coming
year.
to Fanatics Fest 2026. Eric, it's going to be huge.
I can't wait
That
for
might actually
wait
get
for
me
my round
interested in
with
going.
Tom Brady. I'm getting my $5,000 back.
And on that bombshell, we conclude. You're welcome, Fanatics Overlords. Send us money. Just saying. Anyway, that's it. So, Eric Sanderson on Instagram, send all your hate mail to him. He was scandalous, I have no doubt. He probably said something horrible, offended someone.
In the woods.
Send him all your hate mail directly. Brandon, Bobbles and Ball Cards, known associate of 540 Flips before he brutally murdered him, allegedly. We've never seen 540 Flips and Bobbles and Ball Cards in the same room, is all I'm saying.
That's
all I'm saying.
Definitely true.
It's very suspicious, that. But regardless, hopefully you enjoyed. Would love to get any comments or thoughts that you have. Feel free to put them in the comment section. More videos coming up on the channel. Live streams are Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The longest running episodic, whatever it is, we don't know. As we continue the march to 250 episodes. Getting closer. Getting so much closer.
We're getting close.
And
to
Hobby
one
Palooza is around the corner. Yes. And Hobby Palooza is coming across the corner too, and we'll see what happens with that one. Tentative plans being worked out. We'll figure out the rest in short order, but I have submitted at least some information for them, so they may have a thumbnail or something in the next couple of weeks. If and when they do, we'll promote and talk about that, but we'll also talk about it more as we get closer. Also, thanks to AMG for supporting the channel, the podcast, and everything else related to it. Links in the description. And we will have a podcast episode that will drop on Wednesday this week after this podcast, which will drop on Tuesday. That's it for us this time around. Thanks very much. We'll catch you in the next one.